Even set up. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We're still waiting on Mark. He's having some technical difficulties, but hopefully he'll be able to join us at some point as we go here. So I think to get things started, we're going to sort of discuss and help everybody get up to speed on what the plugins rewrite is intended to accomplish and what it does accomplish. And then we're going to try and do like a overview and get some more detail on the architectural changes to the server and how the whole middleware plugin system works. And then hopefully towards the end, we'll start to be able to break down what's left code-wise into actionable pieces that we can kind of delegate to ourselves and the community so that we can get the 3.0 release out. So first things first, what is the new plugin system intended to accomplish? And so I think most of the major outstanding issues right now are actually solved with the new plugin system. For example, bringing your own authentication provider, being able to write plugins to add functionality to Horizon Server, and basically like all the things that are kind of holding up Horizon from being what we would consider production ready right now. So Josh, I don't know, can you I don't know like where your head's at in terms of like how much you remember from working on this, because it's been a little while, but can you kind of summarize what the plugin architecture kind of entails and what the thoughts were and how you guys re-architected that stuff?
I could. If Mark just joined, he could probably do it better, but since he actually wrote it.
Yeah.
But if he's not quite online yet, then I could say like the idea is, well, it's sort of it's a common problem between a lot of these like server side only or client only frameworks where like Firebase, where you don't have any way to run code on the server. So the plugins were ability to like add code that you can run on the server that's trusted. So like authentication, you need to have something trusted, or you need the Horizon developers to create it for you. So plugins were basically like allow you to extend Horizon with like with a smooth upgrade path from, okay, I'm only writing client front end code to, I've written my own Node app from scratch. And I'm using Horizon as a library. So that was kind of like the super high level design, idea. Looks like Mark is like popping in and out. So in terms of how that actually ended up working, like we had, so we had some stuff where you want to be able to add custom commands to the Horizon client. And so we have a little protocol for sending, for when you connect to the Horizon server, for it to send up like, okay, these custom commands are available in your client now is like extended with these commands.
Right. So you mean like the JavaScript driver itself was like those commands would basically be like dynamically attached as methods on the driver itself.
Yeah, exactly.
And basically in the same way that every operation that we have today, like find or what's the between equivalent? I forget. But
it's from and yeah.
Yeah. And as far as I understand, literally everything is implemented as a plugin now. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. Mark went back and like completely rewrote all of the existing commands. Is that it's sort of an element of dogfooding, but also like just proving out And I think they're actually all individual like NPM packages in principle. I don't know if that ended up all being published or not, but
Oh, right. Yeah.
yeah, like they're all, you could write all the existing Horizon functionality with the plugin system. So, and it kind of, yeah, it was kind of like a proof that this is like powerful enough to do the stuff that people really want to be able to do with Horizon.
Mm-hmm. Mark, are you with us yet?
Yeah, I'm trying for my phone, and it looks like it's actually working.
Sweet.
Unfortunately, I missed that last bit. But...
Yeah, so just to catch you up, we're basically talking about the plugin refactor and kind of what the high level goals of that were, what problems you guys were trying to solve, and then we're going to start digging into some of the implementation details.
Okay. Yeah, keep going, and I'll jump in at some point.
Okay. Yeah, so one of the other major requested features was the ability to do like GraphQL endpoints and REST endpoints. Have you guys made it so that plugin developers kind of have an API to interact with RethinkDB in the in a way that lets you do that arbitrarily, or are you kind of constrained by the limitations that Horizon itself imposes?
Horizon still imposes some constraints, although right now the server is actually very close to just a simple WebSocket server, and the plugins add everything on top of that. So I believe I updated the protocol.md. So let me pull that up. Damn it, I'll see it. So when the client sends a request, it goes through all the middleware, which allows you to do various things asynchronously, including make requests to RethinkDB. And ideally, you just send back individual messages to the client, which will put them into a streamable interface like RxJS. And really, there's nothing that actually ties it to RethinkDB after this. The Horizon server's dumb enough. But it does provide like various primitives to make it easy to integrate new queries.
Okay, so are you interacting with essentially the RethinkDB client driver, or are you or sorry, just the RethinkDB client driver, or are you interacting with some more abstract API when you're writing a plugin?
So yeah, when you're using a plugin, we provide a context which includes a way to get the RethinkDB connection, which is just from the node driver.
Okay. So I'm looking at, for anybody following along, issue number 865. One of the main things I'd like to do tonight is kind of figure out how we can delegate the remaining pieces that need to be done. And I spent a little bit of time this week just trying to get familiar with the code again. I had done like some stuff on the server, but most of the contributions I had made were to the client, so I wasn't as familiar with that stuff quite as much anyway. But I guess first of all, would you have any like recommendations for how people who were familiar with Horizon 2.0 code to some extent, how they can kind of get their hands dirty with the 3.0 stuff?
So yeah, the biggest things left to do is actually just figuring out authentication. So we definitely want it to be pluggable, and I spent a little time on it, but we had that discussion a while back, and I haven't been able to spend time on it since. And so
I vaguely remember, but can you address like the challenges there, like why that was different than any other plugin? I think it's related to the fact that you kind of want that authentication layer to happen at the HTTP server level and not like down at the horizon level.
What makes it difficult is, yes, you have to talk to other servers to authenticate a client. Or you could have a plugin that talks to the database, but we don't want to like enforce that. But authentication is a bit different from other plugins because we want every connection to be to have gone through the authentication flow or just be anonymous. So it does touch a bit different part of the code than the other plugins.
So, well, first of all, is the idea that you would piggyback on top of like something like Passport.js at the Express server level, and then just kind of tie that in neatly to the WebSocket protocol that we're exposing?
Exactly. Well, we want to provide both ways to integrate with an existing like Express server, or just if you can use Passport or a Passport-like interface without Express.
Okay, so the plan was to provide an authentication mechanism that was like strictly embedded in Horizon. Like basically you want to support both use cases? Is that what I'm
yes, I don't want to drag in any external dependencies unless we need them. I don't want to impose certain rules on people's stacks.
But so I guess going forward, there's not going to be that like hosted option for Horizon. So does it make sense for us to do anything like custom with authentication, or should we just let people install whatever middleware they want on their Express or Happy or Koa server and kind of just leave it at that? What are the
ideal? But I think we should also, the plugin interface should allow us to implement authentication on like a basic HTTP server. If you wanted to roll your own plugin. Now, we were doing like as a proof of concept a Passport.js plugin that would work with Express. But I think that's basically where a lot of the work needs to go to make sure that everything is there and that this is possible.
Okay, I guess in order to like formalize what we need there, I still don't quite understand what. So I don't quite understand what the plugin would actually do. Is it going to authenticate the WebSocket connection itself, or is the assumption that the WebSocket connection is just open and you can always connect anonymously, and then if you want to authenticate, then the plugin provides the mechanisms to do that part, like over WebSockets?
So the WebSocket is always authenticated by the token, right? So all of like the OAuth and stuff is done HTTP. You get a token, and then you can make the socket connection.
The WebSocket should be authenticated at creation time. I think having the idea of a socket that upgrades to authenticated complicates things too much.
So your all the authentication strictly takes place over HTTP. Was that true in the past too?
Yes, I believe.
Okay, that makes more sense then. That explains it. Okay, so if that's true, how do you? Well, I guess let me take a step back. How do you guys envision people using Horizon going forward? Do you think that we should continue to put effort into supporting the sort of like standalone server use case, or do you think it would be advantageous to just kind of like strip all of that stuff out and assume that everybody's going to import it as middleware? I guess there's not a huge difference between those two use cases, because at the end of the day, we would just be providing basically a baked express instance that's going to consume Horizon in the same way that users would anyway, right?
Yeah, I don't think those are mutually exclusive at all.
Okay.
If like that's actually currently how it's dimensioned, with Horizon itself being like the Horizon package is the pre-built server, and the Horizon server is the thing that you can like tack on to an existing like.
Right. Okay. Okay, so let's try and like formalize the needs. I'm gonna keep notes here and I'll publish them afterwards. But let's try and formalize what needs to be done on the custom authentication side. I guess the first thing is.
Sorry, I think I missed that. Was that a question?
Oh, no. I was just saying, like, let's start to like formalize what the requirements would be for implementing like the custom authentication methods. So like if we're envisioning it as a Horizon plugin, what does that mean exactly? As opposed to it being implemented as middleware on the Express server, for example.
Well, there's no reason that a plugin can't be middleware on the Express server. Horizon itself like attaches as middleware.
Right. Yeah, I get that, but I guess I draw a distinction between the Horizon plugins which behave in a middleware-like fashion and the actual middleware that's on the server. And I guess you're saying that they can interact in some way, like you could have a plugin where one component of it is Express middleware and the other component is a Horizon plugin, which I imagine is what you'd do if you wanted to implement authentication that hit the Horizon database.
I just want to quickly chime in that Madwill in the Slack channel, William offered that one quick option would be to add homemade JSON web token endpoint to the config, so we can launch Passport, JWT, and auth from our system.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where my head was at too. I'm having trouble envisioning what it would look like for a auth plugin to exist as a Horizon plugin and not just be middleware on the server. Like what piece of that in your mind, Mark, needs to be a Horizon plugin, or could be if somebody had a use case?
I'm not sure I follow. So
like what pieces do you see us needing to be responsible for? Or like what ways do you see users writing authentication plugins that are specifically for Horizon?
I mean, we don't actually have to provide these plugins. We just need to provide a way that these plugins can affect the authentication of the WebSockets themselves.
So the other thing is that auth plugins are less useful for people who are writing or using Horizon as middleware only, because obviously they have full ability to use any other middleware for auth if they want. So I think the auth plugins specifically are probably more useful for people who kind of want to configure the server and just have it running.
Right.
So the big gap would be how would they get that plugin attached to Horizon from from nothing? How do they get this Passport plugin running on their Horizon instance?
Right, but I guess from an implementation perspective, it sounds like that would just be like there would be something in the configuration that would tell it to use some certain authentication method, but then under the hood, that would just be us attaching like Passport.js Express middleware to the Express server that we're hosting for the CLI.
Yeah. So Mark, is that actually like, it doesn't work? Like we kind of envisioned almost like, you put the name of the plugin into the config and then it goes and fetches it. And I have a feeling that's not actually what is currently implemented. So like, is discoverability the biggest roadblock here?
Yeah, I haven't thought much about the discoverability of plugins. I've more been focusing on just making sure that the implementation is right.
So yeah, so I think that's probably the biggest thing is like making making it easy to just configure it and just have it start running. That might be the missing like link that needs to be done next.
And for those users, we're not even really talking about ever doing anything custom, really. I mean, like if we had a finite set of auth providers that we were gonna be able to provide in the in like the hosted solution, like the baked solution, I think people would be okay with that because they don't expect it to be extensible, right? Like you wouldn't expect people to write like a custom auth plugin and then want to use that with their CLI-based Horizon server.
Yeah, the point of the pre-baked server is just so that people can get up and running faster. And
Sure.
I expect that as people use it, they want to break out of like this pre-built thing, and so they move down a level, include the server, and build their own.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. So I think it sounds like for now, to sort of meet like the 90% of use cases to get people going, that we really just need a mechanism where we can expose Passport.js auth middleware on the Express server that we run by default with the CLI. And then we just need to provide documentation around how people would do that if they're not familiar with it, if they're hosting their own Express server and just attaching Horizon as middleware. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, I've been looking at the Passport plugin as just a way to be sure that everything is there and people can extend this.
Sorry, what do you mean by that?
That it is possible to write, like it's just a proof of concept.
Oh, okay.
It's a milestone that like authentication plugins are ready.
But so just to clarify, there's no like deeper integration really that we need with Horizon as far as auth goes. Like we really just, I guess I don't really remember like the token-based workflow, like how all that worked in 2.0. But it was basically that you would request over HTTP a token from the server, sending up like the cookies that you had in your browser from the previous
It wasn't great. It was basically, we implemented a few OAuth providers. And so we would have HTTP endpoints that would redirect you to get the OAuth token and then use that to generate a Horizon token that you could authenticate your WebSocket with.
Okay, and so we just, and does that token get persisted on the server at all? It's just a JWT, isn't it? So it contains all the data that you need, right?
We didn't need to save it.
You did not, right? Is that what you said?
No, but we did create like user rows in the users table. But...
Right. Okay, so I guess that would be kind of where the custom Horizon plugin piece might happen, is that you might want to be doing custom stuff with like the OAuth response, like pulling off the fields that you wanted, like maybe like the user's email address and profile name and stuff like that. And that part might need to be custom, or at least have the ability to pass in config.
Right. Well, if you're getting, so if you have an existing Express server with Passport, you already have some way to like store your users somewhere and look them up. And we need a way to integrate that with the what the information Horizon needs on the user, such as like the permissions and like user IDs and stuff like that.
Okay. But at the end of the day, that just basically means that it needs to, within that Passport middleware, where you kind of like tell it how to serialize and deserialize the user response, we need the ability to, I mean, and make calls to the database to like look up a user. We need to be we need to provide APIs so that people can both fetch and store user data in the same way that Horizon would do it natively there. Okay. Okay, so have you started at all with making the CLI based Horizon server based on Express? What was the state of that when you guys were done with it?
I don't think that's actually started.
Okay.
As far as I know, the Horizon server is just set with all the standard plugins for normal operations, but it needs auth, and then yes, we need the like baked in server.
And if I remember correctly, the current one, the way it is today is just like a raw node HTTP server, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
moving over to Express, I think, will give us a lot.
Yeah, that sounds like it should be pretty easy. And I think like by doing that, it'll help us kind of figure out the auth pieces at the same time.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just reading through the issue here to see kind of what else you outlined as needing work. It sounds like aside from those two things, it's really just tests and documentation.
Yeah, we could definitely use a lot of like unit tests on the individual plugins. I ran the Horizon 3.0 server through all of like the client tests from 2.x, and they should all be passing.
Oh, okay. So there weren't really any huge client changes that had to happen?
Yeah, in fact, I made it a goal at one point to keep the client interface identical.
Okay.
Or as few changes as possible. I think there were some unavoidable things.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, really, like the protocol and everything just didn't have to change much at all.
Oh no, the protocol changed.
Oh, it did?
So we wouldn't be compatible with a client loaded on a 2.x server, but
okay.
But the protocol is, I think, much more extensible and cleaner now. Yeah, I looking at the protocol.md, it's in the root directory, goes over it. And really what happens is the server just maintains the state of a value in the client, and the client issues updates in RxJS. And we use JSON patches for those now.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I forgot about the protocol changes. That actually was a pretty awesome idea.
Yeah, like that's actually pretty huge. I didn't know anything about that, but like there were several times when I was playing around with Horizon and like the server just dumps like a massive amount of data. And so I mean, that could help a lot when you're talking about updates on
Yeah,
like
so
a
we have like,
big collection.
yeah.
Does when you're doing a like an ordered change feed, does the server respond with all the values every time there are positional changes, or does that happen in like a JSON patch type way as well?
Let me actually double check that. You're specifically asking about like the watch case, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe. Yeah, we just do add and remove JSON patches. So it's
Okay,
shown
cool. So you guys applied like the same logic there.
Yeah.
Cool. It was true that previously it would send the whole data set though, right?
It's possible. I can't remember actually. I think we would just forward through what we got from RethinkDB with like maybe some minor modifications, but I don't think we would end up sending the whole thing unless RethinkDB did, and I don't think RethinkDB did.
Yeah, I don't remember how it works in RethinkDB. I don't remember if there's like if you get like an index on each row of like the new position.
Yeah, I think there's an old offset and a new offset field.
Oh yeah.
In the changes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because I'm starting to remember in the client code how we like built that back up, built the object back up in the observable.
Yeah. So I believe right now in the client, when we get back a set of patches, we issue a change for each patch, which I think could go either way. Like it might make sense to batch them together, and it might make sense to issue a change on each.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking maybe we should have a option on watch for that.
Yeah, that would make sense. Similar to like the squash optarg and the RethinkDB driver, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, it actually seems like we're a lot closer than I thought we were, which is pretty cool.
Unfortunately, I haven't had much time recently, but
yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. Everybody's been busy.
I can work on this.
Can't you guys just get Stripe to find a use case for Horizon and then bring it in house?
We've been trying.
Okay. Yeah, so I will in the next few days kind of go through and try and identify like what needs documentation. I'll try and run through all the changes and kind of get like a at least general change log going for this stuff, which should then help further document everything that needs to be documented. and then Mark, you and I can spend some time replacing the CLI with Express over the next week or two, and I can try and take a stab at the auth plugins. I think that stuff's going to be relatively easy.
Okay, yeah.
So do you guys in Slack, or I haven't been looking at the YouTube page, but do you guys have any questions before we kind of wrap stuff up?
Someone just asked a question if there's any thoughts on the admin UI and dashboard.
Are they talking about, for Horizon specifically?
I would assume so.
Yeah.
Although that message is now gone.
So you were working on that, I think, a little bit, weren't you, Ryan? Did you have like a little prototype or something? Ryan?
His mic is off. I don't know if he's off.
Brian's not there. I mean, he built it pretty early on in Horizon, and then we literally changed the protocol and then the driver like 8 times.
Yeah.
So,
I remember there was something floating around out there where somebody had kind of started to throw together a little UI. I think in terms of like short-term goals, that's going to be pretty low priority. Long-term goals, maybe. It kind of depends on what you are looking for. I don't think that it's going to make sense to. We had kind of originally envisioned the admin UI as something where you could go in and manage like all the configuration for the server. If it was on Horizon Cloud, you'd be able to like set up like auto scaling stuff in there and whatnot. But I think if anything, it would look a lot more like the RethinkDB admin UI, where you might have like a data explorer, be able to see like the number of connections to the database and stuff like that. But I don't think we'll mess with any configuration stuff for a while. Oh yeah, I'm looking at the GitHub issue you just posted.
For those of you following along, this is Horizon pull request number 245.
Yep. So yeah, as I was saying, Ryan put some work into that initially. We'd have to revisit it once we merge in the 3.0 changes, but that would probably be one that's pretty good for contributors in the community to work on once we've got 3.0 documented. That'd be a good project for somebody to pick up.
Can anybody hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my mic cut out. I had to rejoin the Hangout. But yeah, so the status of that, basically all of that code is bit rotted, like long since bit rotted. So I think with all of the changes that were made to the protocol and the underlying Horizon architecture, I think that it would have to be redone. And basically I'd put it off because I wanted to see what the plugin system looked like. So I think that there's some stuff to work with there. I think in particular some of the progress that I made on the data browsing bits would still be pretty useful. As long as you kind of like rejiggered it to work with the new architecture. Some of the other stuff that was a lot more experimental, so like the statistics and some of that stuff, it was always kind of a hack, and I was sort of like anticipating some new RethinkDB change feed features that would have made that a lot saner, and those features are not landing now. So I think that the statistics thing probably had to be rethought, but the data browser bit I think would not be that hard to make it work, because I mean fundamentally the data browser is just talking to RethinkDB. So I think that if you just changed the way that make it work with as a plugin or something, a Horizon plugin, that would still work.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think all of this stuff would be a lot easier to implement under 3.0 anyway, since you'd be able to write your own plugins for example, to get like the number of collections in the database and the number of clients that are currently connected. I don't know how you were doing that before, but without the ability to expose that stuff as a separate endpoint through or something through a plugin, that sounds like hard information to get.
Yeah, well, I was just basically like manually hacking new endpoints into Horizon, which I'm sure would be a lot easier now. But yeah, the like collecting that information in a way that's reasonable is still pretty non-trivial, even on the RethinkDB end. So that's kind of the issue with the statistics.
Yep, that makes sense. Okay, I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up here. I don't see any more questions trickling in. But for all of those that joined us, we're really happy to see that people are still stoked on Horizon and are still passionate about the project. We know it's been a long time coming, and I know, just like myself included, everybody's excited for sort of the vision that Horizon outlined of being able to interact with RethinkDB in a serverless fashion and not having to worry about any of that stuff. And I think it's a really powerful way of thinking about building web applications. It's rare that you see a framework or a platform like this that sort of highlights the latest and greatest in web technologies in such a clean and concise API. The observable based API is great and works super well over WebSockets. I think that the client API in general just makes a lot of sense, and I'm as excited as you guys are to be able to build applications on top of this platform. We're going to be relying on you guys to keep this project moving forward. I know the 3.0 plugin stuff has been a big holdup for contributors so far, because we basically told everybody, if you're looking to get involved, you kind of have to wait until after we merge plugins, because there's no sense in working off the 2.0 branch really. But hopefully, once we get 3.0 merged, we'll see that kind of help the community around Horizon flourish, as people are able to write their own custom plugins and just contribute to Horizon again. You guys have anything else to add?
Yeah, I think one thing I would say is it'd be really nice to get some docs on like how to write a plugin specifically. And yeah, I'd be willing to help with that stuff, because I think it would be like one of the, if we're gonna like go, okay, the community is gonna do this, and the community is gonna like expand on Horizon, then it really helps to have like a landing page to go, okay, here's how I can build my little thing in Horizon.
Yeah, totally. And thinking about it again, the sort of web UI admin thing, I think in a limited context might be a good sort of, you know, to-do style application where it could be sort of our prototype of how you build Horizon applications, and in that way we would both get the functionality, but it would also be kind of self-documenting in some sense, in that we'd have a place to point people. So that might be a good project for us to work on. Okay, well, thanks guys, and I appreciate all the core team members that were able to join us tonight and walk us through everything. Have a good night.
Thanks for setting this up.
Yeah, you bet.
Yep.
Thanks, Marshall.
Have a good one.
See you guys.